Welcome back to the second installment of Tales with Tales. This is a show where I do a book review. Today is Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. And I do it while trying to not get distracted by my dogs harassing me and my camera equipment right now. Why do I do this? Because there's no one to watch the dogs, and they teach me patience through the chaos. Let's get into it! So John Green is the well-known author of Looking for Alaska, whom this one's named after. Also The Fault in Our Stars and Paper Towns. But he's also a social media guy. Oh my word, dude! Come on! He's also on YouTube, does really cool projects called Crash Course, also Vlogbrothers with his brother Hank. He is present on social media everywhere. If you've never heard of John Green, you probably have never been on the internet. But anyways, this is a really good book. It speaks a lot about him. And so, let's dive into it. John Green has accolades all the way down, but this is what we're talking about today. So, my dad and I got this book. I sent it to him because both he and I are really big fans of the Green Brothers and what they do. And I ended up getting a signed copy, actually, so I was really thankful for that. And we both agree that... Can you stop messing with that? We both agree that John Green can tell a good story, because this is a good story, but that's really not what it's about. His genius in the writing is really in the subtleties and the in-between the lines that he really shows himself and what his thoughts are. So this book is about a girl that has OCD named Asa Holmes. She, which is interesting because John is also a victim of OCD. Then he talks about this, but the point is that she's a high school student, and what happens in her town is that it takes place in Indianapolis, and she's just a high school student. She's going through school and everything. It kind of tells her background about what she deals with, the thoughts that enter her mind through OCD, and how she's really stricken with it. Will you stop? And, well, what happens is a billionaire goes missing from a big fraud scandal in our town that he goes missing, and there's a huge reward out for his capture. And so her and her friend Daisy, who's also really boisterous and excited and everything, they set out to try and solve this mystery that's worth a lot of money. And what I like about it that's so interesting is that you would think with a name like Asa Holmes, with the legacy that surname carries, that she'd be able to, you know, have some sort of instinctual mystery-solving capabilities, but her OCD makes it the exact opposite. She can't even carry out daily functions, can't go eat in a cafeteria, let alone solve, you know, a mystery that Indianapolis's finest can. John Green's style is super easy to read. It's actually pretty remarkable. I remember watching a video of his where he's talking about his writing, and he says it's really difficult to... Stop it. He says it's... Hey, stop. He says it's really difficult to, from the beginning, to write down your thoughts and make it seem comprehensible, even if they're, you know, if they're super abstract or not. It's a whole other thing and a whole other challenge entirely to write them down so that other people might understand them. So, like, the ratio of people understanding it to what your original thoughts are really low, but he does a really good job of it. I can really see his character coming through. He really, what I'm interested most about his writing is that he really does a lot of philosophical ideas. He really kind of lays it all out there. The story is there, but it really serves only as a vessel for kind of what his thoughts are and what his experience is as far as OCD goes. Lengthwise, it's a pretty short book. It's it doesn't take a lot of time to read, but it's really chock full of heavy-hitting ideas and really quotable things that's typical of John Green. You know, whenever The Fault in Our Stars came out, that was huge in compared to a lot of the quotes that they used. What in the world? And so, I'm really impressed with how he came about it. My takeaways is that the story itself isn't lacking, but if you really go into it knowing that the story isn't the main point of the book, then I think you'll be set up just fine. He really uses it, I think, to lay out his thoughts on OCD, on how difficult it is to get through, and he really displays, I think, what a lot of his experience is through Asa Holmes. And so the narrative is just kind of serves as a vessel, like I said before. And so ultimately, if someone were to pick this book up and not know anything about John Green or about Hank Green, about their projects, what they do together, all their charitable stuff that they do, then this book isn't going to mean much to them. But if you do know John Green, then I think it means so much more to you, because it feels almost like an invitation for his readers, for his followers, to really understand or try to understand what he goes through on a day-to-day basis. Like I said earlier, it's really a small part of his writing is the story, I believe. I've heard a lot of people say, you know, John Green's writing, you know, it's so-so, it's not that great. And I think some of them may be a little bit misunderstood with the writing because, you know, it doesn't fall in the grand narrative things. He doesn't really involve himself in big picture elements like, you know, Harry Potter, Wizarding World, Star Trek, Star Wars stuff. You know, it's not really big picture to him, but the thoughts that he puts into his writing is really where it matters, I believe. There's a quote in here that I thought was really interesting that really shows something about John Green. And it says right here, at this moment, Asa and Daisy are traveling through the Indianapolis River, and she's looking through her dad's phone, and her dad had already passed away, and so she keeps his phone to look at. And this part, it says, a ton of the pictures on his phone were of leafless branches dividing up the sky like the view I had as we floated under that sycamore. I always wondered what he saw in that, the split apart sky. And this was super interesting to me because as soon as I read the passage, I knew exactly what it was coming from. If you go on John Green's Instagram page, a lot of his pictures are just full of the sky fractured up by leafless tree branches. And this was before, you know, while he was writing the book, he was uploading these pictures. And so, if you think of it in a big metaphorical sense, John Green is really saying, hey, Asa's saying, my dad used to take these pictures with, by in terms, is John Green himself, since he created her in part. And so, I thought that was super interesting. You really got to see what John Green, you know, even does in his daily life through that book. So, rating 4 out of 5 stars for me. The story isn't necessarily lackluster, it's just a lot different than what you might expect. Don't go into reading it finding an amazing story, but really soak up the thoughts and the ideas of the characters, and I think you'll do just fine. I could see someone not knowing John Green rating it a little lower than myself, but it's subjective at the end of the day. Yeah, go read it if you're interested. He's a really fantastic writer. Follow them on YouTube, Vlogbrothers and Crash Course if you're into that kind of educational stuff. They do a lot of projects all across the nation, all across the world. So just check it out. If you like the video, thanks for watching. If you like the dogs, I hope they didn't seem too distracting. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. I've got a lot more books lined up that I want to review, and it'll be a fun time. This has been the second episode of Tales with Tales. Subscribe. I'll see you guys later. This is Conrad in the Making.